Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
I have with me today Ambassador Ashok Kant. He was India's ambassador to China and also Secretary East at the Ministry of External Affairs. He is now director at the Institute of Chinese Studies, and he'll be talking to us about the recent India-China border flare-up. Welcome to the Prince, sir. And to quickly begin, if you can tell us what happened exactly at Ladakh this time across the LSC, around the LSC. We've seen that this time both forces sort of, had a sort of a skirmish or there was stone throwing, I mean, all by media reports, but in a non-traditional area like the Galwan River Valley. So if you can shed some light what has been happening and also what could be the likely provocation is what I'm looking at.
We do have face-off situations between troops of India and China in border areas from time to time. It's because, as you know, we have different alignment with the line of actual control. And as patrolling has intensified on both sides, the space available has shrunk. So our troops come face to face more often than what has been the case in the past. But I would suggest that what's happening this time around is somewhat more serious. It's not a routine occurrence in border areas. We have seen greater aggression on part of Chinese troops. We have seen multiple incidents occurring across a fairly wide frontage of the line of actual control. And we have also seen a situation of intrusion taking place in areas like Galwan River Valley, where we did not anticipate the difference in the line to LAC. So, moreover, this situation is sort of dragging on for some time. As you mentioned, there have been skirmishes between troops of two countries, which again is not a normal occurrence. Ordinarily, what happens that when troops come face to face, there is a fairly well-defined drill. They are required to disengage, go back to the respective bases. They're not supposed to pursue each other. I think that basic protocol has been violated this time by the Chinese side. They're staying put and also engaging in fairly aggressive behavior, resulting in fairly large number of injuries on our side, going by media reports. Now, what is the provocation? It's difficult to be very sure about the motives on the Chinese side in view of the fact that the Chinese system is quite opaque, so one can only speculate. There can be some local reasons. For instance, in Galwan River Valley, close to that, we have the new road alignment which has been completed by us, linking Dabruk to Shyok and Daulat Beg Oldi. In the past also, we have seen that the Chinese object to development of infrastructure on our side of the LAC, even though they have developed infrastructure on their side on fairly extensive basis. We have second movers disadvantage. So we need to move in and catch up in terms of infrastructure. That is one area. Apart from that, generally speaking, we have seen Chinese being more assertive in terms of their territorial claims, including in contested areas, sometimes including in areas where there appears to be a case of expansion of their territorial claims. For instance, Galwan River Valley. A third motivation could be, generally speaking, in the COVID era, Chinese are more assertive on a wide range of issues, from Hong Kong to Taiwan to South China Sea to India-China border areas. So one can only speculate what's happening on the Chinese side, but clearly the situation we have today is somewhat more serious than what routinely occurs along India-China borders.
Okay. So basically, pandemic or no pandemic, the Chinese will sort of continue what they have been doing. But although, I mean, this seems now being resolved diplomatically, and there are mechanisms that we've heard from the Minister of External Affairs. But do you see a pattern in this? Do you think this is probably Chinese President Xi Jinping's, great leap forward policy? 2.0. What would you have to say on that?
First on the issue of resolution, the good thing is that, between India and China, we have put in place a fairly extensive, architecture for engagement at both military and diplomatic levels to resolve such incidents. In this case, also, there have been meetings between border commanders, and we understand from media report as also what has been stated by spokespersons of both countries, diplomatic channel has been activated. So I'm hopeful that as in the past, as in the case of standoff situations which had taken place in Depsang Balji in 2013, in Demchok and Chumar in 2014, in case of Doklam in 2017, this time around as well, we'll be able to find a solution to this problem. Now, whether it represents a new normal, one will have to wait and see. But as I mentioned, Chinese are becoming more assertive in pursuing their territorial claims, and this is part of a larger pattern that we have witnessed. Look at their behavior in South China Sea. Something similar is happening along India-China borders also. This is not very encouraging. This needs to be discussed between India and China, because these situations where there are skirmishes, where there is enhancement of troop deployment, where the troops of two sides are in face-to-face situations over extended period, these situations are inherently risky. They need to be resolved as early as possible. They need to be avoided. So we need to have a dialogue with our Chinese friends to see that we adhere to various protocols which have been put in place since 1993 and which have on the whole worked well, in the sense that border areas, notwithstanding occasional incidents, have remained by and large peaceful.
Sir, also to talk about the fact that the uniqueness of this relationship, if I can use the word, while on one hand, at the midst of all this, pandemic, you were seeing, earlier this month and slightly from last month, border incursions were going on and this flare-up happened. There were also exchange and a lot of cooperation happening between both countries as far as COVID-19 is concerned, exchange of medical devices and best practices and all of that. Even India repatriating some of its students from Wuhan when it all started. So how would you describe this kind of a relationship? This is not really a relationship that we see between India and Pakistan. This is different. So taking both the aspects, how do you see this sort of panning out?
No, that's the nature of the relationship. It's a complex relationship. Both sides have avoided, getting into adversary trap. Both sides have made efforts to see that, on the whole, the relationship is projected in a positive light. It's constructive engagement. At the same time, the fact remains that we have elements of cooperation and competition coexisting. So, on one side, as you mentioned, we cooperated quite closely with the Chinese side to get some essential medical supplies from China to deal with the challenge posed by COVID-19. And in parallel, we have these incidents taking place in India-China border areas. It's, what's happening in the relationship, if you step back a little bit and see the trajectory, at least since 2016, there are periods when relations are relatively stable, but then we get into problems. There's turbulence in the relationship, and differences surface. It's because there are some fundamental differences. There are outstanding issues which have accumulated, which have not been resolved. Both sides have focused more on managing differences rather than trying to resolve outstanding issues. Now, this creates an inherently unstable situation. It leads to this cycle of ups and downs in relationship, which I'm afraid will keep happening. In fact, looking ahead, I expect a period of greater challenge in India-China relations for at least two reasons. For one thing, as I mentioned earlier, the Chinese side is becoming more assertive in its foreign policy behavior. there is talk of wolf warrior diplomacy even within China. No, China seems to look upon the COVID period, the COVID era, as a period of strategic opportunity to expand its influence. As you know, China was the original epicenter of COVID-19, but it also became the first country to recover in relative terms from the novel coronavirus, while the rest of the world is still struggling, especially Western countries, the USA, Europe, and even India. We are struggling. This gives China a first mover's advantage, so to say, and they would like to take advantage, utilize this opportunity. So we'll see greater assertiveness on part of China, as I mentioned earlier, on range of issues, from what they've done on Hong Kong to Taiwan to South China Sea to India-China border areas. Number one. Number two, what worries me that there is a large asymmetry which has developed between India and China in terms of our capabilities, what Chinese tend to describe as comprehensive national strength. I'm worried that this gap will further widen between our two countries, which will not be something positive, which might encourage Chinese to be even less sensitive to our concerns. A third thing which is happening, which will impact India-China relations, strategic rivalry between China and the USA, as you know, it is becoming more and more acute. Now, this is creating a situation which will generate greater pressure on India and China to deal with a changed and greatly changing geopolitical environment. So we'll have to factor in all these considerations by looking at the trajectory of India-China relations, and I suspect it could be a more challenging situation for us.
That's interesting. So when you talk about challenging times ahead, now I do understand, and the Ministry of External Affairs, and I mean the government at large, they keep saying that yes, there are several mechanisms. There are these 5 agreements that have been signed between both sides since 1993. But as you rightly said, that these now needs a proper resolution. The border affairs needs to be solved. But my point is, if you're talking about challenging times ahead, how soon do you think all these mechanisms can really work and put an end to all this? Or do you think it's not that easy?
As I mentioned earlier, these mechanisms have on the whole worked well, because there has not been any incident along India-China borders resulting in loss of life since 1975. This is a no mean achievement, considering that we have huge differences between two countries on the alignment of both line of actual control and international boundary.
Yeah. And as I said, there's been no exchange of bullets and yes, since
1975. It's a positive thing, and I think both sides, both India and China, can take some credit for it, that we have worked towards it. It has not happened just like that. You referred to 5 agreements which have been signed between two countries. At the same time, it's important that these agreements are adhered to. That's not happening. No. Protocols which have been put in place to govern behavior of our troops in border areas in recent instances, for instance, Chinese side has not quite been complying with those requirements. Now that needs to be discussed. But this is management of border where I'm relatively optimistic that they will ensure that border areas remain by and large peaceful. But as far as resolution of the boundary question is concerned, we are at a stalemate. We haven't seen any breakthrough since 2005, when we signed the agreement on political parameters and guiding principles. For the last 15 years, special representatives have been talking. These have been useful talks, but a basic breakthrough has eluded us. I think we need to focus a little bit more on outstanding issues like boundary question. We need to focus more on how do we reconcile our differing strategic perspectives on what's happening in Asia and and world beyond. What do we deal with? How do we deal with problem areas which have accumulated, including differences we have on our overlapping footprint in our neighborhood, both land and maritime? All these issues need to be addressed. We need to move towards at least some incremental progress on those issues. If we don't do that, if we just try to manage differences, that's a good objective. We should manage differences. We should not allow differences to turn into disputes, as our leaders have agreed. But that's not enough by itself. We need to try and put at least some differences behind us.
Mm-hmm. Interesting, sir, when you talk about the strategic alignment. Now, I do understand US, the President Trump has been tweeting that he wants to mediate or arbitrate, which both India and China have rejected in a way. And they've said that we are directly in touch with each other and we will resolve the matter. But it is also true that India is sort of aligning with the US when it comes to strategic initiatives like the Indo-Pacific or the Quad dialogue. Now, when you do that, and both of them are sort of aimed at, making China more responsible or containment of China, this is bound to happen, right? So, can you really wish away America's role from all of these?
No, one is not wishing away. As I mentioned earlier, changes in geopolitical situation do impact India-China relations. There's no wishing that away. As for President Trump's offer to mediate or offer arbitration, as you mentioned, neither India nor China is interested in that. We are two large countries. We are capable of addressing our problems on our own. We don't expect any third party to get involved. So that's there. As for India aligning with USA, I don't think there is any sort of great desire on India's part to get into alliance relationship with the USA. We have India-US relations are extensive. It's a relationship which has developed very well in recent years, and it's not. China could be, shared concerns about China could be a convergent point, but the relationship between India and USA goes well beyond that. When we look at situation developing Indo-Pacific, our concerns about behavior of some countries, China in particular, do provide a strategic clue. There's no running away from that. At the same time, Indo-Pacific, the construct is being developed in a more positive manner. You have to look at Prime Minister Modi's remarks at the Shangri-La dialogue and how he defined India's policy on Indo-Pacific. Clearly, this was not something directed against China, and this is something which is appreciated to an extent by the Chinese side.
Mm-hmm. So then lastly, in a post-COVID world now, when everybody is talking about a new world order, India and China are bound to compete. Now, do you see there will be, to put it simply, a clash in President Xi's Chinese dream and Prime Minister Modi's new India? How will these two juxtaposition itself in a post-COVID world?
I would not like to use the term clash, but we do have a situation where, strategic worldview of India and the worldview of China do not entirely coincide. There are, number of areas where we have differences. For instance, what kind of future do we see for Asia or for Indo-Pacific? China seems to be favoring hierarchical order, where they would like to emerge as the dominant power. Now, that's something India would not like to accept, because if you look at our own civilizational heritage, if you look at the fundamentals of foreign policy, and our own, the vision of our place in the world, clearly we would not like to accept a subsidiary position vis-a-vis another country. So that's going to be a problem. As I mentioned earlier, our footprints overlap both in our land periphery and in maritime periphery. How to manage that overlapping footprint where our differences surface from time to time, for instance, in South Asia or Indian Ocean region, is going to be a challenge. More broadly, how do we manage the simultaneous emergence or re-emergence of India and China as major powers, especially under a scenario where the capability gap between two countries is quite large. The Chinese economy is 5 times the size of Indian economy. China's defense budget is 4 times the size of India's defense budget. And this gap is still increasing. As I remarked earlier, the asymmetry in comprehensive national strength of two countries is likely to widen even further. Now, this is a situation which is inherently difficult to manage. So that's why, while I'm not pessimistic about future trajectory of India-China relations, it's a relationship which will remain complex and challenging, and will require very deft handling on both sides. There are positive factors, including the fact that the top leadership of two countries, Prime Minister Modi and President Xi, they appear to be personally invested in taking this relationship forward in a relatively positive direction. See that relations remain on track. That has helped. We have the arrangement of formal summits which have been helpful in the past. We have extensive dialogue mechanisms in place which are again very helpful. So there are positive factors which gives me a degree of hope that we will ensure that the relationship remains on the whole constructive, even while there will be competition, rivalry on various issues.
Mm-hmm. We certainly hope so, Ambassador, and thank you so much for talking to the print. Thank you for giving us your time.
My pleasure.